Hello, my name is Trevor, and today we're going to be taking a look at this crazy new combo that's available to us thanks to the new book, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. So if you have ever wanted to play a monk, the Hexblood monk is the one to play. And I'm going to show you why it's so awesome today on Rolling with Advantage. So before we dive into the actual build, the first thing we got to do is take a look at the new Hexblood lineage, which is available to us in the new Ravenloft book, and kind of figure out exactly what this is. What the Hexblood is you're the heir of a hag, or you somehow this dark gift has been passed down through your family, from a coven or something of that nature. There are a lot of examples here that the book gives you that it kind of helps you kind of get in the idea of how this happened. The idea is that this is like a lineage per se and not like a race. It seems like 5th edition D&D is kind of moving away from that and giving us these ideas of this something that was kind of passed down, which is pretty cool. Now, whether you're playing in Ravenloft or Forgotten Realms, whatever it is you're playing is, be sure you ask your DM beforehand, hey, can I play this, and give them the idea of the character, and most DMs are like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. So we're going to kind of take a look at the Hexblood itself. Now, there's this thing called Ancestral Legacy, which is a rule that allows us to kind of like stamp this onto an existing character. It was a way for people who had like a legacy character they want to try out some of the new Ravenloft things. You can kind of swap these things out and become a Hexblood mid character, which is a pretty cool thing. But today we're going to be talking about a build where we actually start the game as a Hexblood, and then we're going to kind of see what you get for that. So the things that we're taking a look at is you start out of the game as a Fae. You can choose to be medium or small, just depending on how you want to build your character. Your walking speed is 30 feet. You get dark vision. You get this thing called an eerie token, and as a bonus action, you can harmlessly remove a lock of your hair, one of your nails, or one of your teeth. This token is imbued with magic until you finish a long rest. While this token is imbued in this way, you can take these actions. You get telepathic message, and as an action, you can send a telepathic message to the creature holding or carrying the token as long as you're within 10 miles of it. The message can contain up to 25 words, so it's basically a cool kind of dark way to have message. Also, we have remote viewing. If you're within 10 miles of the token, you can enter a trance as an action. The trance lasts for 1 minute, but it ends early if you dismiss it. No action required, or you're incapacitated. Now, during this trance, you can see and hear from the token as if you were located where it is. This is really, really good, and something that I'm very curious to see at the table, because it's basically a way for you to spy on a location, like, hey, there's something going down here. Well, all I need to do is get my hair in the room, or a fingernail or whatever, drop it there, and now I can view it. That's really interesting. It could create a lot of very interesting roleplay ideas for that. But the big thing we're going to be taking a look at is the fact that they get this thing called Hex Magic. You can cast Disguise Self and the Hex spell with this trait. Once you cast either of these spells with this trait, you can't cast that spell with it again until you finish a long rest. You can also cast these spells using any spell slots you have, and you get to choose Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. So the cool thing here is that you can cast both of them between a long rest. Disguise Self is crazy powerful for the, town roleplay, get past the guards kind of thing. And Hex is one of the best buff spells in the game is for that melee characters like to look at, i.e. Monk. So let's take a look exactly at what Hex is. Okay. A monk's trying to get the Hex spell. That's been around forever with multi-classing. I've seen a lot of people try to build monks to have this ability. The fact that we can bake it into our race is extremely powerful. What this does is that you basically can cast this. It is a concentration. It does last for an hour, and as long as you have it on, you place a curse on a creature, and until the spell ends, you deal an extra d6 of necrotic damage to that target whenever you hit it with an attack. Also, you can choose one ability when you cast this spell, and the target has disadvantage on ability checks made with the chosen ability. So let's say you could build a grappler and you want to, try to like go up and grapple the person, and they have, you could put disadvantage on strength, and then you can easily, overtake the person with a grapple. It's pretty interesting. Now, the other thing about this is that if the target drops to 0 hit points, before the spell ends, you can use a bonus action to kind of move the curse to a new creature. The reason Hex is so good on a monk is a monk gets a lot of attacks early. They attack a lot, particularly with things like Flurry of Blows, So every time you hit somebody, if they're hexed, it's not a once per turn. If you attack someone 3 times with the hex, you get that damage 3 extra times. So people have been building hex monks for a while, either taking a class like a multi-class into warlock, or taking the magic initiate feat to where they can kind of get this one-off cast of it. It's been a very popular build for monks to either find a way to buff their damage, because that's kind of what's lacking for them. So yeah, they can attack a lot, but they can't really hit very hard. If you give them the ability to have Hex or Hunter's Mark, the Ranger spell, which is similar to it, all of a sudden they can deal a ton of damage. I've seen a character at the table that got the ability to have Hex through a feat, and their damage went through the roof. It was extremely powerful. So instead of taking a feat to do that, or having to be like a variant human, again, taking a feat, now we can play something really fun and interesting, the Hexblood, and get Hex automatically baked into the character. So now that we have the ability to make a character who is starting the game with Hex, you're going to do a lot of damage from level 1 on, and it's not something we have to kind of build into. So now let's take a look at how I would make a Hexblood monk. So now diving into the build itself, we want to take a look at the Hexblood. Like I said earlier, we already kind of know the abilities that we get. The big thing is that you do get the choice of having how do you want to get your stats. You have the ability of either having 3 increases of +1 or 1 into +2 and +1. Depending on how you're rolling stats, you may want to change this up. You basically want to have really high dexterity, wisdom, and a pretty decent constitution to play a monk. So if you're going to do point buy, I'm going to show you how I would do it. If you're rolling dice or doing something else, you'll kind of get the idea. So this is what I chose. I put my points in, double up into dexterity and 1 into wisdom. Now, when we come over here and we pick class, we go into monk. Now, first thing we're going to do is take a look at abilities. This is the spread that I chose. I did 8 in strength and 8 in intelligence, 14 dex, 15 constitution, and 15 in wisdom. What this allows you to do is at level 1, we're going to have 2 points into dex, making this a 16, and a point in wisdom, making that a 16. We have an odd number in constitution. I'm going to fix that and get us to an even number with a feat at level 4. So this is how the character looks right now. I made him up into a 10th level character. Now, for also going back to race, we also want to choose, one of the cool things about this, you have this thing called Ancestral Legacy, and we go ahead and pick up Perception and Stealth. So those are 2 really good skills we want to have. Perception queuing off of Wisdom, which will be really high with, and also Stealth with Dexterity, which is another one of our core traits we're going to have. So then we're going to go over here and take a look at the class itself. Okay. So for proficiencies, I also took Acrobatics and Insight. Again, whatever my abilities are, I try to dive into those skills. So this is a dex skill, this is a wisdom-based skill, so that way, the skills that I have, I'm really good at. Alchemist supplies, you can pick what you want here. I just like the idea of, the Hexblood monk that's maybe making potions or poisons or something like that. Just talk to your DM and see how you can use that. I think this would be fun. So down here at level 3, we get to choose a tradition. This is your subclass. I chose Way of the Long Death. You could go Way of Shadow. That's another really good option for this. The idea here is that we want to build a character that can kind of dance in and out of combat. He's going to do good damage with Hex, and then he also can heal himself with Long Death to give him some sustain in combat. So here's how this ability works, is at level 3 we pick up Touch of Death. And starting, when you choose a tradition at 3rd level, use the Study of Death allows you to extract vitality from another creature as it nears its demise. When you reduce a creature within 5 feet of you to 0 hit points, you gain temporary hit points equal to your Wisdom modifier, which we're going to have a good one, and plus your Monk level. So, the cool thing about this is that you do this all the time. Now you can't stack temporary hit points, but you should always have some type of hit point shield every time you're dropping something. This could be really, really good. I think this is one of those things you're going to see early on. It's going to save you early, and then later, as your monk level goes up, you're going to get this pretty decent health shield on you with this ability. So I think this is really cool. It also really goes with the whole idea that, Hex is necrotic magic, and then with that, I'm also the studying of death. It kind of goes together. There's a theme here. Now, at level 4, I'm going to take one of my new favorite feats that we got into Tasha's, which is Crusher. Now, what this allows me to do is I get a point in either Strength or Constitution. I'm going to choose Constitution, so that Constitution score you saw earlier of 15 is now a 16. And then what this does is once per turn, when you hit a creature with an attack that deals bludgeoning damage, i.e. fist or kick or quarterstaff, you can move it 5 feet to an unoccupied space, providing the target is no more than one size larger than you. When you score a critical hit that deals bludgeoning damage to a creature, attack rolls against that creature are made with advantage until the start of your next turn. Okay. The reason this is so good is moving things around the battlefield is extremely good. It allows the monk to run up and push somebody off a ledge. That's the best thing you can do. But also kind of shift things around the battlefield. The other thing to think about is this. Monks inherently, they get faster with their unarmored movement. At level 6, you get this bonus to your movement. Sorry. So one of the great things about Crusher is this ability here to move somebody 5 feet. Okay, so the monk can automatically move faster than anyone else at the table. So when you're looking at the fact that you have unarmored movement that allows you to move faster, and then you get to move somebody away from you, think about this. You could run up to somebody and say, I'll hex you, I'll punch you, move you 5 feet away. I then can move back away from you 40 feet, and now you're 5 feet away from me. He can't close without spending his entire action to get up to you, and you moving away does not cause an attack of opportunity. So the idea here is that with Crusher, I can run up, I can punch somebody, move them back, then move away from them and kind of kite them in a way. So now they have to try to close the gap. Now, you could say, oh, well, maybe they'll just throw out a ranged weapon at me. Great. Monks love to get range attacks at them because then you have deflect missiles. So what the idea here is if you're fighting something one-on-one, and you'll be surprised how many times in combat you can kind of get things down to being one-on-one, you get to kite people back and then kind of create this zone of where you can run in, hit somebody really hard, push them back, fall back, and just kind of dance around the battlefield. You have to play a monk, in my opinion, differently than you would play a fighter or barbarian. I don't feel that a monk is somebody who can go up there and just be the tank. I mean, I've seen it happen. They're not the best at it, but I like the idea of someone who can run in kind of maybe like off tank in a sense, take a couple of hits, and then kind of dance around the battlefield. I think that's a lot of fun, and that's the way I would want to play it is, the monk's not just sitting there just going toe-to-toe trading blows with the ogre. He's punching, backing up, running around, stunning them, doing all these things, and then all the time, like, hitting these really fast attacks, and thanks to Hex, they do a lot of damage. So I think Crusher for a monk is really good, and then when you fuse that with the Hexblood lineage to give us the Hex magic, we don't have to slow the monk progression down by taking a multi-class. Like, that's typically how this character was made. People would take a level into Warlock or something like that just to try to amplify the damage of the monk. Now we don't have to do that. We can just do that straight with the Hexblood, and we also get all these other crazy cool things for being a Hexblood as well. So this is how I would play it. Now, after this, you standard fare monk until you get to level 6. At level 6, we gain this other ability that allows you to, you gain the ability to unsettle or terrify those around you as an action, for your soul has been touched by the shadow of death. When you take this action, each creature within 30 feet of you that can see you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be frightened of you until the end of your next turn. Okay. Again, this goes to putting people into this zone where they can't really do a whole lot. If you go in and you frighten everybody, they can't willingly move towards you and you kind of dance out of the way. There's a lot of fun things you can do with that where you're kind of like a melee controller in a sense. So I really like the way that would feel in combat. This is something I'm really excited to see someone play. Now, at level 8, there's a lot of options here. I think we want to get our dex as high as possible once we get into this tier, so I went ahead and put 2 points into dex. So, here's what the character looks like. For description, I picked Far Traveler. Again, I want to have more skills that have to hit my big skills, which is dexterity and wisdom. So I picked up animal handling and survival. Choose a musical instrument or something, a flute, and whatever it is you want to do, and then pick your language. This is totally up to however your vision for the character is. Equipment, standard monk stuff, which is basically not a whole lot of anything. So with zero items whatsoever, your walking speed here is 50, which is insane. You actually can get this higher depending on your race, but this is really good. And then these are the skills. So if you take a look, this character has 6 skills that he's really high in, +7s, +8s here. This is at level 10. These are really, really solid. An armor class of 17 is not, at this point at level 10, it's just okay. Early on, it's pretty good. If we go back and take a look at what this character looks like early, let's just drop him down to level 3. And let's see what the stat sheet looks like now at level 3. It's still, you're looking at a 16 armor class, because this is before we got the ASI bump at level 8 to get that dex higher. But still, these are solid stats at level 3. Hit points, a little on the low side. We haven't got the ASI here for the Constitution. Once you put this on level 4, this will get a lot better. But overall, I think this is a lot of fun. If you have played a Hexblood monk, I would like to hear your feedback. I just feel that the ability to not have to do a multi-class to get Hex, or, kind of the variant human is something we always could do with some of the new feats that we have to pick it up. The problem with variant human is that, you don't have, your stats aren't quite as good. You also lose a skill as opposed to what you would get here. So I feel the Hexblood is the perfect monk to be able to pick this up. So I would love your feedback. If you're seeing something here and you think, hey, I've got a better idea, I'd love to hear it. Leave some comments down below. You can also join our Discord. I'll put a link in the description below. And until next time, let's keep rolling with advantage. Thanks.